Everyone around me was smiling, and I did not know how to tell them that I was terrified. They were already picking out names, already imagining tiny fingers and soft blankets, already talking about the future like it was a gift that had already arrived. And I stood right there in the middle of all of it, nodding along, pressing my lips into something that looked enough like a smile, while something deep inside me was quietly falling apart. Nobody knew. Nobody even suspected. Because when you grow up the way I grew up, you learn very early that some feelings are not meant to be spoken out loud, especially feelings that seem to go against the very life you were raised to love. My name is Hannah, and I grew up in a small Amish community in Ohio. I was the third of 6 children, raised in a home that smelled like baked bread and wood smoke, surrounded by parents who loved each other fiercely and loved us just the same. My mother used to say that family was God's first gift to the world, and I believed her. I still do. We lived simply, worked hard, prayed often, and took care of one another the way people do when they understand that life is not meant to be carried alone. I am not telling you this story because I am angry at where I came from. I am telling you this story because I loved my community deeply, and that love is exactly what made everything so much harder. Growing up, I watched the older women around me, and I genuinely admired them. They raised large families with patience and grace and a kind of quiet strength that I hoped would one day live inside me too. Marriage and motherhood were not foreign ideas to me. They were sacred ones. They were the heartbeat of everything I had been raised to understand about purpose and belonging. I never once thought I would be the girl who struggled with any of it. I was always the helpful one, the one who stayed late to wash dishes, the one who held the babies at church and rocked them gently while their mothers rested. People used to say that I was a natural. And because they said it so often, I believed them without ever stopping to ask myself if I actually felt ready for that kind of life, or if I was just good at performing the parts of it that were easy. I was 19 when I married Eli. He was kind and steady and patient in the way that certain men just are, like they were born with an extra measure of calm that the rest of the world runs short on. I cared for him genuinely. Our beginning was sweet and simple, full of long evenings on the porch and quiet mornings learning how to build a life together from the ground up. And in those early months, I felt something close to peace. But it was not long before the conversation started shifting. First, it was gentle, almost playful. His mother would squeeze my hand at Sunday dinner and say something warm and teasing about how there was plenty of room in that house for little feet. My own mother would glance at me across the kitchen with soft eyes full of expectation. Neighbors would stop me after church to say they were praying for us, and everyone seemed to understand exactly what that meant without anyone saying it plainly. I told myself it was sweetness. I told myself they meant well, and they did. I want to be completely clear about that. Not one single person who placed that expectation on me was doing it from a place of cruelty. They were doing it from a place of deep, sincere love. Because in my world, children meant blessing, and blessing was what everyone wanted for me. But there is something about being surrounded by that kind of love and still feeling completely alone inside your own heart that is nearly impossible to explain. Because even when the pressure comes wrapped in warmth, it is still pressure. And I was not prepared for how heavy it would become. I started waking up in the middle of the night with a tightness in my chest that I could not name. I would lie there in the dark, listening to the quiet of our house, and feel something that I can only describe as a hollow, aching dread. Not of Eli, not of my family, but of the version of myself that everyone was already imagining. The mother, the steady one, the woman who would hold it all together the way my mother had, the way her mother had before her. And I did not feel like that woman yet. I did not feel close to her. I felt like a girl who was still trying to figure out who she was, still trying to understand her own heart, still so unsure of herself in ways she had never admitted to anyone. So I did what I had learned to do. I kept it inside. I smiled at the right moments. I said the right things. When someone made a hopeful comment, I would laugh softly and let the conversation move on without ever revealing what was happening beneath the surface. I convinced myself repeatedly that the fear was normal, that it would pass, that once the right time came, I would simply feel differently. I kept waiting for the readiness to arrive like a season, like I just needed to be patient enough, and one morning I would wake up and it would be there. But it never came, and the waiting only made the silence heavier. There was one afternoon in late autumn when Eli's mother came by to visit, and she brought fabric for a quilt. Baby fabric, little yellow ducks, and soft green squares. She spread it across the table with so much joy in her face that it physically hurt me to look at it. She said she had been saving it for years, that she had known someday it would be for one of her grandchildren. And I sat across from her at that table, and I nodded and touched the fabric gently and said it was beautiful, because it was beautiful. And because I did not know how to tell her that the sight of it made me feel like the walls were closing in. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time while Eli slept, and I pressed my hands together in my lap, and I tried to pray, and what came out was not words. It was just tears. Long, exhausted, silent tears that I had been holding back for so long that my whole body shook when they finally came. And in that moment, I understood something I had been refusing to look at directly. I was not just nervous. I was not just adjusting. I was genuinely not ready, and pretending otherwise was slowly hollowing me out from the inside. The turning point came on an ordinary Tuesday, which is how the most important moments in real life tend to arrive. My closest friend, Ruth, came over to help me with some mending, and somewhere in the middle of the quiet work, she looked at me and said simply, "Hannah, where did you go?" And something about the way she said it, without any judgment, without any agenda, just honest and careful and full of care, broke something open in me that I had kept sealed for months. I put down what I was holding and I told her the truth. All of it. The nighttime fear, the hollow feeling, the fabric on the table, the smile I had been performing, the readiness that was never arriving. And I cried through most of it, and she sat with me without trying to fix it, and that was the most healing thing anyone had done for me in a very long time. Ruth did not tell me I was wrong for feeling what I felt. She did not tell me I was failing or weak or faithless. She said that feeling scared of something important did not mean I was incapable of it. She said that maybe the fear was not a sign that I should stop, but a sign that I understood how serious it truly was, and those words settled into me in a way that nothing else had. Because I had been treating my fear like an enemy, like something that proved I was broken, when maybe it was just my heart being honest about needing more time and more tenderness before it could carry something that big. I eventually talked to Eli. That conversation was the hardest one of my life, harder than I have words to describe. Because I loved him, and I feared disappointing him, and I had no idea how he would receive what I had been carrying alone for so long. But he listened. He really listened. And he did not say that my feelings were wrong. He said he wished I had told him sooner, not because he was hurt, but because he did not want me to carry anything alone that we could carry together. And that was the moment I began to understand that honesty inside a marriage is not a threat. It is the foundation of everything. What I learned from all of this is something I still think about almost every day. I learned that pressure dressed in love is still pressure. I learned that the people who love you most can sometimes make it hardest to tell the truth, not because they are unkind, but because you love them so much that you cannot bear the thought of letting them down. I learned that fear is not always a wall. Sometimes it is a door you have to walk through slowly, with your eyes open, on your own terms. And I learned that the most important roles in life deserve more than obligation. They deserve genuine preparation, honest conversation, and a heart that has been given the space to truly arrive. Have you ever felt pressure to be ready for something before your heart truly was? I would love to know that I am not alone in this. Leave me a comment below and tell me your story, because I think more of us have been standing in that exact place than anyone ever admits out loud. And if this story reached something inside you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it today, because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for each other is simply say, "Your feelings are real, your pace is valid, and you do not have to pretend."